What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to DLF. Today, we are doing a new style video. We are talking 8 lessons learned from week 8 of the NFL season. Now, it's obviously fantasy based. It's a little bit of redraft. It's a little bit of dynasty. We're going to cover both. Before we get into it, if you like what we're doing, subscribe to the channel. Questions, comments, you know the drill, guys. Drop those down below. Let's just get into this. First lesson learned, and this one, it makes me happy. Justin Fields is a QB1. He is a bona fide top 10 quarterback moving forward in fantasy. What he just did against the Dallas Cowboys cannot be, stated enough, or understated, overstated. I can't think properly, but Justin Fields looked great against the Cowboys. He looked very, very good against the Patriots the week before. He is now strung together back-to-back top 5 finishes. And, really over the last month, he has been good. He has been a QB1 4 straight weeks now. He is the overall QB6 in points per game in the last month. He's turned a corner. He's turned a corner specifically for fantasy, right? Now, is he going to be incredible as a real-life NFL quarterback? The jury's out. The Bears don't have an offensive line. They don't really have receivers right now. Maybe with the Roquan trade, right? They add 2 in the 2023 draft. But right now, the jury's out on his actual NFL career. But it's dynasty, it's fantasy football. For at least the next season or 2, Justin Fields has proven he is going to be a QB1, and that is on the back of just insane rushing upside. He is on pace for almost 900 rushing yards, and I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're a crappy quarterback and that's what you're doing. You carry top 10, top 5 upside every single week. And looking, at the quarterback landscape right now, that middle tier, right? Russell Wilson, Tom Brady, Matthew Stafford, some other guys in there as well that we thought were going to be solid. Oh, Aaron Rodgers. Some guys we thought were going to be solid just haven't been, right? There's a void right now. And you can say Brady's safer, right? And this and that. Give me Justin Fields over Tom Brady, at least for the next 3 weeks, right? Fields gets Miami, Detroit, Atlanta. That's as juicy, as tantalizing as it can get. Basically, the comp is 2021 Jalen Hurts. Right? I didn't think Jalen Hurts was a great quarterback last season. I don't think anybody really did. He was incredible for fantasy. It didn't matter. Right? And right now, Jalen Hurts, his career trajectory is what we hope and basically pray for with Justin Fields. So in Dynasty, that's why I'm still buying in. We have the blueprint. It's Jalen Hurts. It's Lamar Jackson. He is that type of player. We just need to get him some weapons, and hopefully, right, he takes the next step in the future. But at least for this season, top 10 quarterback rest of the way, I'm ready to call that now. Next on the list, it is Travis Etienne, and basically, what did we learn? We learned that he's a star. He is a star running back. There is no other way around it. His first, really, second game as the true workhorse back just absolutely shreds the Denver Broncos defense. He has now gone 4 straight games with a run over 40 yards. 4 straight games with over 6.5 yards per carry. And I'm not a big yards per carry guy, but 6.5 yards for a month is just ridiculous. He right now leads all running backs in rushing yards over expected. Basically, we're seeing exactly what we saw at Clemson. He's been a great receiver, explosive, and he's just electric on the ground. He's impossible to bring down. The first guy is missing basically every time. He is shifty as hell, and he's just a good running back. This is what I was talking about when I put out my very first video for DLF 5 months ago. This is exactly what I was getting on. And if Addison can find it, throw in a clip. So say Travis Etienne leaves with 150 carries. Not a lot by any stretch, but he gets up into the, 70, 75 target range. You're looking at a guy that has top 15, top 10 running back upside. And in Dynasty, even in redraft, he's going later. But in Dynasty at RB19, that just screams value for a guy that's about to exceed his ADP and vault himself, several tiers up the running back ladder, similar to DeAndre Swift last season. I'm saying the exact same stuff right now that I was saying 5 months ago. Travis Etienne was a screaming value, And look at him now. I mean, he is just proven to be a superstar. He's a top 10 Dynasty running back. He is too good to ignore. And basically, if you paid attention, if you bought low during the season, you have an RB1 the rest of the way. That is the key takeaway from Week 8, at least as it pertains to Travis Etienne. Sticking at the running back position, and that is the Los Angeles Rams are desperate. They are desperate at the running back position. I mean, let's just talk about what's happened. Cam Akers, second-round running back, right? Tears an Achilles, comes back this season, looks terrible, is not good. Great, he's out. Darrell Henderson. We go back to Darrell Henderson, who just keeps popping up. He has been disappointing. He has been underwhelming. He's just been flat-out bad, to be perfectly honest. I mean, along with the rest of the Rams offense, in all fairness. But he's been bad. So they turn right to Malcolm Brown and Ronnie Rivers. And you're looking, basically, in Week 8, 3 running backs with 5+ touches. None of them really doing anything noteworthy, notable, exciting, fun, interesting at all. Like, they just didn't. Ronnie Rivers, out of nowhere, right? Matthew Berry drops that little nugget Saturday. Everybody runs to the waivers to add Ronnie Rivers. He picks up 12 touches, doesn't really do anything with them. And now you're looking at this backfield thinking that it's bad. Like, it's just as bad as it can possibly be. Now, I'm recording this Monday night, so they very well could have traded for Kareem Hunt or David Montgomery or somebody else to fill that void. If they do not, the answer, at least it seems like the potential answer, could be Kyren Williams. Do I think Kyren Williams is a superstar or a great running back? No, I don't. The metrics coming out of college, the combine, all that kind of stuff was just underwhelming. That's why he slipped in drafts. But clearly it's not Malcolm Brown. It's not Darrell Henderson. It sure as hell is not Ronnie Rivers. Maybe it's Kyren Williams. Like, that's the key takeaway is Kyren Williams has a clear path to that job if he can take it. Next up on the list, we're basically ready to say DeAndre Hopkins is still unreal. Like, he's still a wide receiver 1. He is a top 5 wide receiver. And to be a little bit more specific, he's played 2 games. He is currently the wide receiver 1 in points per game. Off of steroids, 30 years old, just everything kind of pointed to him maybe slowing down. It does not seem to be the case, right? He is just taking targets at an insane clip. He is continuing to produce weekly, obviously, right? 2 games, wide receiver 1 in points per game. He's still a top 10 guy, and just the talent has not gone anywhere whatsoever. Things are going to get interesting when Hollywood Brown is healthy and back in the lineup. But I think we're basically seeing Hopkins is still the unquestioned number 1 in this offense. He came back. They didn't ease him in at all. It was just all systems go. Cliff Kingsbury is fighting for his coaching life right now and basically he's saying, I don't care what happens. We are going to feed DeAndre Hopkins every step of the way, and that is how I'm going to try to save my job. And, I mean, it's not really working because Kingsbury's a crappy coach and he's getting fired this year, basically no matter what. But I don't see any reason this changes. Hopkins is the best option in this offense right now. When Hollywood Brown comes back, it's going to be interesting, but I still think Hopkins maintains a extremely prominent role. He remains a top 15 wide receiver at worst when Hollywood is back. And, you know, if it's redraft, you're not trading for him. If it's Dynasty and you're a contender, I'm giving up pretty heavy draft capital to go get DeAndre Hopkins. He looks like the missing piece for a potential title on a fantasy team, and I'm happy to pay up, whether that's a late first, which, you know, maybe you don't love. Maybe you get back Hopkins and a pick, I think is probably a better move than just the first by itself. So something to think about there. Multiple seconds, a young wide receiver, and a pick for Hopkins. I'm happy to make that move as well. DeAndre Hopkins is still a bona fide star in the NFL. Sticking with the theme of wide receivers being back, right, just returning to prominence, DJ Moore is back to being a top 15 wide receiver. He has proven with PJ Walker that he is a damn good wideout, and really it was Baker Mayfield's fault. I think that's what we're learning here, right? Baker Mayfield is getting benched for an XFL quarterback who has kind of unlocked this offense. DJ Moore has finished as a top 10 wide receiver in back-to-back weeks now. I mean, he's put up, 21 targets, 13 receptions, 221 yards, and 2 touchdowns, which for DJ Moore is a ton in 2 weeks. DJ Moore has basically gone out and said, I'm not a bad wide receiver. I'm not washed up, even at 25, like people were saying. It's the quarterback's fault. And right now, again, it's only been 2 weeks, but right now it looks like, it is 100% Baker Mayfield's fault. Baker Mayfield is done, as far as I'm concerned. He's about to enter his career backup stage, if that. I mean, he's just not a good quarterback, right? Like, if you can't do it with DJ Moore, who has been good or above average with basically every quarterback he's played with, it's pretty clear what the problem is. And the problem is Baker Mayfield. So this is a two-parter, right? DJ Moore, he's back. He's awesome. He's incredible. And Baker Mayfield is done. He's toast. He's terrible. There's no other way to phrase that. So DJ Moore, great work, Baker. We'll see you never. We got 3 more on the list here. Next one up, we're talking Tony Pollard, and what we learned is Tony Pollard's better than Zeke. He is just a better running back, and Jerry Jones refuses to admit it, to acknowledge it, to let us enjoy it. That's really what's happening. Tony Pollard has 2 starts now without Zeke. 2 games as the starting running back. In those 2 games, he has 279 yards and 5 touchdowns. When Zeke was younger, that was in his range of outcomes. That was a possibility every week for Zeke. Not the total, but, the per game averages. That's something Zeke could do. But this current iteration of Zeke is not capable of doing what Tony Pollard just did. And, again, Jerry Jones has doubled down. He has tripled down on Zeke being the guy, right? He just said it in another press conference. This offense goes as Zeke does. And that's kind of depressing because Zeke hasn't been very good lately. And you just watch Tony Pollard absolutely shred the Bears. And that's not to say Zeke would not have had a solid game against the Bears, but I don't think he's rushing for 3 touchdowns and breaking long runs consistently and just breaking the back of the Chicago Bears. Zeke would hammer them, right? 5 to 7 yards at a pop, maybe. But he doesn't have the long speed that Tony Pollard does. And, one important thing to track here, and again, it does matter because if we're trying to project usage and all these other things moving forward, Tony Pollard, even as the starter, still did not see 20 touches, right? The Cowboys still gave undrafted free agent Malik Davis 10 carries. They do not want to use Tony Pollard as a true workhorse back. As much as all of us want it to happen, right? We all want this to be true desperately because Tony Pollard's electric. He's a great running back. The Cowboys do not want that to be the case. I mean, CeeDee Lamb was in the backfield. He got a carry even. Tony Pollard is not going to be the guy. I want it to be true desperately, but here's the thing. Zeke's going to be there. He's not going anywhere. He has the monster contract. So you stick with Tony Pollard, right? You play him as a strong flex play most weeks and a top 10 running back if Zeke is out. But our hopes and dreams of Tony Pollard being the guy, it's not happening, unfortunately, at least with this team this season. So keep that in mind. As great as he is, hedge. You have to hedge your bets in case Zeke is healthy the entire season. Lesson number 7 here. Christian Kirk is not a true number 1 wide receiver. And we thought it was true. A lot of people were all in after those first 3 weeks, right? Christian Kirk just lights the NFL on fire with volume, yardage, touchdowns. He was doing everything a guy needed to do to be a relevant wide receiver, a fantasy superstar. Really, I mean, that's what he looked like. He looked like he went out, he earned that massive contract that the Jags decided to give him in the offseason, and it looked as if Trevor Lawrence has found his guy. Fast forward to week 8, that's not the case. It's just not, right? Over the last 5 games, so after his absurd 3-game stretch, You were looking at Christian Kirk, who is averaging 9.1 points a game over the last 5 weeks. So over a month of football. He's still seeing, just under 7 targets, and that's solid. That's not true number one numbers. But he's only top 75 yards once, right? He's top 60 once, if you even want to drop that threshold down further. He just hasn't been good. He gets dominated by better corners, and he can get schemed out by defenses way too easily. So I think when you're looking at Christian Kirk, he's a good number 2. I think he's a very solid number 2 wide receiver in the NFL. But that contract he just got, he's not worth it. And it sucks saying that because I wanted it to be true, right? Those first 3 weeks were fun. They were great. They were super enjoyable. He's come plummeting back to earth, right? He did have 17 points 2 weeks ago. That's great. Little kind of string you along just enough. But I don't trust the Christian Kirk thing. If you traded him early in the season, great. You probably capitalized because he was outproducing what he should be doing on a weekly basis. And now we're seeing the regression kind of come forcing its way in. So Christian Kirk, a very good number 2 wide receiver, but just not a true number 1. And to close us out, our last lesson of the week, if you are playing the Atlanta Falcons, you start your running backs. There's no other way to put this. If we look at what they've allowed over the last 5 weeks, it's absurd, right? Let's start 5 weeks ago. You have Nick Chubb, finishes as the RB11. You have Leonard Fournette, finish as the RB2. You have Joe Mixon, finish as the RB11. You have Deonta Foreman, finish as the RB5. Obviously, right, the game against the 49ers is in there where Jeff Wilson puts up half a point. But the other 4 weeks, that's 80% of their games. Over the last 5 weeks, they have allowed an RB1 finish. 2 top 5 finishes. It's too easy against Atlanta. The defense is bad. It's very, very bad. You allow Deonta Foreman to drop 30 points on your head, 3 touchdowns. If he can do it, and not that he's a terrible running back. I think he's probably pretty fine. But if Deonta Foreman and the Panthers offense can do it, basically any running back that plays them is a top 10 guy. It's really looking that way. Now, are we going to rank them that way every time? No, of course not, because other players have good matchups too. But right now, Atlanta's defense cannot stop anybody. They can't. Find out whoever the hell plays them in the playoffs, target those running backs, and probably win a title on the back of just riding Atlanta to the finals and to a title. They're terrible. So that's the last takeaway. They are a must start for any running back that is playing the Atlanta Falcons. All right, guys, that is all I have for you. Again, if you like the video, you like what we're doing here, subscribe. If you have questions, you have comments, drop it down below. As always, thank you for watching, and we will see you next time.